Hello and welcome back to this series that I'm making. I think I was calling it like the University Diaries or something, and it's sort of just me telling people about some horror stories about the modern day university experience. Um, and today I want to talk about like a class I was recently in. So recently, some premiers were announcing that they were lifting restrictions, and in class we watched these presentations of they were lifting restrictions. And for most people in this country, they are very happy at this. They want restrictions lifted. They want to start getting back to their normal life. They've managed the risk in their heads. They've looked at it. They've assessed whether or not they want to get a vaccine or not, what path is good for them. And, for majority of people, me included, we are ready to get back. Like, we are no longer scared of this virus. We feel that we've beaten it and we're ready to go. But much to my surprise, not the people in this class. Not the average university student, because I've heard belly aching from a lot of people over the past few days, and it ain't it. Like, everyone in this class, like most people in this class, were arguing that we should remain locked down forever. We should have these restrictions in place forever because some people are at higher risk than others. And it's something I said in my last video about the students these days are being too empathetic. Like, empathy is good to a certain degree, but like having too much is not good. Like, it's hard for me to explain without sounding heartless, but it gets to the point where we have to worry about other things than some people's safety. At some point we have to look at society as a whole and go, well, it's time to look at things differently. It's time to go back to normal. We realize that there are immunocompromised people, and we have helped protect them up to now as best as we could. And now we're giving them every tool available to where they can be safe. And the science says that this isn't going away. You know, they like to talk about the science, but only the science they agree with. It's like, well, now natural immunity is looking good, as said by the CDC. You know, it's vaccine and vaccine, natural immunity. It's time to get back to things. It's time to go back and start living our lives again. And if you feel that you need a booster, go get a booster. If you feel like you don't, it's time to say, well, if you don't feel like you need one, you don't want one, you don't have to get one. And that's not how it is to these people. It's like, to what point does your empathy carry? It's this little thought experiment I did where it's like, you're wearing clothes right now. I see a lot of big brands on people. You know, they're Walmart, or even just like, yeah, Walmart brands like George or whatever. And it's, do you have empathy towards the slave labor that went into producing your shirt? The children that are dying in these sweatshops to produce that. I see everyone on a computer. We're all on a computer to talk about this. We're all on our phones to look at this. Do you care about the children dying in the lithium mines in Africa to mine batteries, to mine all the minerals needed to produce all of this? No. It's like, I know for a fact some of you drive electric cars. Do you care about the kids dying producing batteries for those electric cars? The kids dying in factories in China to manufacture all this? It's like, no, you don't really have that much empathy. So you only have empathy until you don't. You only have empathy until you don't. And it's this empathy just to be empathetic towards people, just to prove a political point. But you can flip the conversation on its head. It's like, yeah, you have these immunocompromised people, but we've given them the protection. We've given them enough resources to where we can start living our lives again. And if you want to self-isolate, if you want to get your boosters, if you want to wear a mask, like, you can do that. We're not saying you can't do that. We're just allowing people to get back. And you flip it on your head and you're like, well, do you not have empathy for these kids? You know, these, you know, like grade schoolers that are looking at their future. It's like, do you want them to continue to be depressed? Do you want them to continue believing that they'll never be able to play with their friends again? Do you want them to grow up in a world where they don't know who they are and where they live in it? Like I saw a video earlier, um, I think it was in Israel, of them announcing that their kids no longer have to wear masks, and they ripped it off. They ripped their masks off and cheered. It's like, we cannot continue to be a jackboot on these kids. We can no longer be empatheticless to the future of these children. We have to have empathy towards them if you want to, say it in those terms. There are more than just the immunocompromised who are suffering. We all suffer. Life is suffering. But it's our response to this suffering that makes it worth living. Do we not have empathy towards the old people in these retirement homes that haven't seen their family in a long time? It's like, yeah, for the first few months, you put the videos up on social media of you hugging them through like a tarp or something, and it's like, okay, that got you likes in the first little while, but now it's like, well, turns out not having human connection, not seeing your family in a long time is seriously taking a mental toll on these people. It's like they are depressed, and I know from personal account talking to people, some people are like, oh, well, if this is the way I'm gonna live, I'd rather just die. I'd rather die of the virus than continue to be locked down and away from my family. It's like, do we not have empathy towards them? So they like to employ empathy as a weapon, a tool that they can use in specific scenarios. It's like, I found this one immunocompromised person, and Jason Kenney or Scott Moe wants them dead. It's like, I'm sure they don't. I don't want them to die personally. Like, I don't, like, no one wants people to die, but it's just, we cannot let that be a limiting factor in whether or not we choose to get on with our lives or not. You get in a car, you risk a car crash, you risk killing people, you risk dying. We allow, fast food, we allow all these, I know I'm about 2 years into a 2-month bulk at this rate, but we allow all these like harmful seed oils, these foods and chemicals that are altering our gut biomes, making us depressed, making us fat, making us weak, and do anything about that. Heart disease and heart attacks and obesity are number one killers across North America. We aren't doing anything about that. We aren't putting scales on the door of supermarkets or like locking the sweets behind like, a glass door. It's like, oh, wow, you weigh too much. You can't go get a pack of cookies, or your BMI's too high. You can't go buy a bag of chips. We don't do that. Don't you think it would be empathetic to sort of force these people to be, obese people to be healthy? It's like, well, they don't think so, because one serves a narrative and one doesn't. And they're using these immunocompromised people as a shield. A shield essentially to block any criticism of, them continuing to lock down, because, it's a decent argument, but you're using them as a tool at this rate. It's, nope, we can't open up, especially to my political enemies. It's like, well, we can't open up. Here's an immunocompromised person. And it's, Omicron right now, it's proven to be way less deadly than any other variant. And we're really in the endemic stage of it. Other countries have realized this. Other countries are opening up. People are getting back to their lives. But it's, these socially engineered people, like people have been that like lock themselves in their house for 2 years, didn't go out at all. And we're constantly told by the CBC or CTV or Global that like, you're going to die if you see your friends. If you talk to your neighbors, you're going to die. You're gonna kill your grandma if you talk to these people. And it's like, I'm not like, I don't watch these people. Like, I, not to sound like, some like uppity person, but I choose to like inform my own narratives over what I see. The eyes and the brain are way better when you're using deductive reasoning than when information is just kind of being yelled at you. And these people just don't have it. It's like the liberalization of the university system has allowed like low IQ people and people so susceptible to like these like mainstream narratives to get in, and it's just propagated into like this echo chamber of you're not allowed to question. Like this one girl in the class, like I she brought up a point. I quite agreed with her. It's like, well, I'm not like, she said like, oh, well, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I can see where they're coming from. The long-term effects of this vaccine are not proven. And like clockwork, like Instagram bots, these drones go, the vaccine is safe and effective. You must take it to avoid killing your grandma. The science is settled. And they just start hounding on her. It's like, oh, well, hold on. She didn't even say that she agreed with this. She just said that she sees where people who are vaccine hesitant are coming from. Like seeing something from another person's perspective. And it's how these people operate. It's this sort of cult. And I think later in the chat, I think it was her, that she brought up that like, science isn't like this cult to be worshipped. It's like meant to be questioned. Like saying the science is settled is such a new phenomenon. Like if you would have said like the science is settled like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, like any scientist would like look at you and go, what? The whole point of science is that it's never settled. That's why you put the theory of in front of anything, because you cannot, the theory of evolution. We cannot prove evolution exists. But, we have an idea that, this is likely what happened. The theory of gravity, we cannot prove gravity exists. It's just a theory that we've all agreed on. Now, I'm not like some anti-evolution, anti-gravity person, In fact, being anti-gravity is probably more dangerous than being anti-vaccine, because you'll have people like walk off their roofs or something, like jump off a building. I was like, I can fly. It's like, I digress. But, the science is never settled, and these people worship it like a cult because they've been socially engineered to. And universities, that's another like tactic of the university. They've essentially just become these socially engineering environments where people just go and they're fed just an echo chamber, a constant revolving door of information that's supposed to make them obedient to these social causes, obedient to the state. Because, these powerful people cannot have free individual thinkers in a society, or else they'll get called on their BS a lot more than they actually do. So, yeah, in this class, I realized how many of my fellow university students, how many fellow useless university students are actually just drones. They're total NPCs. Nothing. The lights are on, but no one's home. And, a lot of these, like crack, like leftists, like the Destiny types or whatever. They're just like, well, you're like these firebomb like debaters. It's like you are so far gone to that. There's nothing there. It's like, have you ever talked to like a real person on the street and gotten what they like? Have you talked to anyone not on a university campus? Or not like trying to like suck up to a special interest groups? Because like this is this part of the rant is like for another day, but like the career like serial Politico rant, it's like you're in these constant like groups of like constantly like politically leftist people, like constant political people that think about this all the time, and you're not like around actual people who really don't care and they just want to like get on with their lives. So, and that's a danger too, because these university students, they don't get out, they don't talk to real people, they don't have real experience, and they don't know what the average people think, but they're the ones getting in line to sort of run this country. And that's a very scary thought. Like, the people I see at university are like the next generation of like politicians, and it's like, oh God, like what's the future gonna be like? These people have like no experience talking to real people. They have no experience like actually like trying, so like going out in a group and like talking to like people they disagree with, like like I'm sorry, go to like Lloydminster and just talk to some random people about mandatory masking and permanent lockdown. See how far you get. Go to Fort McMurray and start talking like that, and it's you're gonna go. You're gonna find out pretty fast that most people disagree with that. Even in like the city I'm in, like like you'll talk to like even just like people you stereotypically think is liberal, like people I know that are like that would like vote for like Justin Trudeau or like the Liberal Party without Justin Trudeau. Like historically liberal people are like, I'm ready for these restrictions to end. I'm ready for it. Like even like center left people are ready for this to end. They want freedom again. It's these hard right lefties, or not hard right, but like these hard lefties that want like power, these tankies that are at the forefront of our culture, which is sounds really weird. They're like at the forefront of politics. It's like, look, you are some of the most like low IQ like people out there, and yeah, we can't let these people become politicians. We cannot let these people become leaders. They are dangerous people. They are dangers to you, your kids. They're dangers to themselves, probably, because these people can't comprehend a supply chain, like let alone like run a country. These people can't run their own lives. They can't, like this poster says here, they can't clean their room. They can't tell their truth. They can't tell the truth. Uh, Like, if you can't even clean your room, how do you expect to, like, run the world? Or at least keep your room tidy? Or, like, at least keep your life from falling apart? Because, like, whenever you meet, like, these leftist people, like, they're so, like, their brain has been so shriveled up. Like, they have mental breakdowns every other week. Like, they don't know who they are. They don't know where they fit in society, but they think that they can tell you what to do. Now, I've been ranting for so long, I forgot what the original question I wanted to make a video on even was. Oh yeah, this class. So yeah, and this is just going on about my rant that don't send your kids to university. It's not good for them. Doesn't have any critical thinking. And oh yeah, the truckers. So yeah, a lot of these people are very anti like truck protest, like because they've been socially engineered to believe that like any authentic like protest that's supported by the right wing is automatically extremist, and they believe all the misinformation spouted out by the propaganda machines that run Canadian media. And like one girl I really don't like she's like the stereotypical like young like privileged female activist, like doesn't have like any experience out of like her small niche, like you don't talk to real people, like do you talk to activists, and that's about it's activists and university students, and that's about it. And she's like, well, people out there are like desecrating things and like spreading like misinformation and like urinating on like these memorials. It's like, no, there's no evidence. Like for people that like to talk about like the science is settled and there's like evidence, it's like there's no evidence of any of this. Like show me a video of violence, like the best they have is like a picture of a Confederate flag, someone with a Confederate flag at the protest, and it's like, A, they're an idiot and they got shouted out by the protesters pretty quick, or B, they're a federal agent trying to make the protest look bad. Both are very probable solutions. I personally believe it was a federal agent, but that's against the point. It's they don't have any real conception of how the real world works, how real people work. They're the university trains them to be elitist as soon as they get in there. They're trained like, oh, you're better because you have a university degree. You're better than everyone else. And then over time, they start actually like believing it. Like, well, I'm smart because I have a university degree. I have a piece of paper, so that makes me worth more than the people that actually make this world run. And when they find someone like me who is very uh not into their programming and goes directly against the narratives, like, I think once I've introduced myself as like, yo, I'm the like the right winger that the CBC warns you about, because I'm essentially a walking stereotype. um and like, just like the shock in these people that, like, whenever you're like authentically like right wing or like disagree with them, just like the confusion, like, it like breaks their mind a bit that someone like you exists in this setting. And that, it's like, I thought right winger bad, right winger stupid. It's like, no, no. Like, most right wingers are actually probably smarter than you. Like, the people in the trades are by far a lot smarter than you, because they know how the world works. They know how to actually like produce things and like own their own labor and do things that like benefit society. And you're kind of just here like complaining about old people, and it's like, well, tell me which one's the smarter of the two. Person with a good like career that helps the world, or the person that'll get out of university and probably have to work at Starbucks. Not that I'm saying anything against Starbucks workers. They're objectively more useful than most university students in university. So I think I'll end the rant there. You know, as soon as I do get into more like classes, I'll probably have a few more horror stories to tell. This has been, I think, the second episode of like the University Diaries. Um, yeah, this has been Save Canada. The elites don't love you, but I will. Have a great night.